So far in my tutorial series for the Roland Aerophone GO, we've looked at the instrument itself, and we've also looked at the Roland Aerophone GO Plus app. Now, the thing is, there are many other apps that we can use in conjunction with the Aerophone GO, and in fact any other wind synthesizer as well. So today I thought I'd just show you two of those and how we can set them up really quite easily to work with the Aerophone GO. So if you're interested, please keep watching the video, subscribe to my channel. Let's get into it. I'm going to split the video into three parts. Firstly, the connections to these different apps. They're all going to vary slightly. It's pretty much the same process, but the sort of connection buttons are in a slightly different place. Now, the second part, I'm going to show you the Thor Synth app, which you'll need to purchase, and you can then purchase sounds that have been programmed to work with the Aerophone or any wind synthesizer. And then thirdly, I'll show you the Moog Model D app. Now again, you've got to purchase this app, but on this one, I'm going to show you how you can quite simply make the settings so that they respond pretty well with the Aerophone. Now, I'm no expert in synth programming. There are plenty of videos on YouTube that will probably give you a better insight, but I want to show you a really easy way to get started in it. So let's begin by looking at how we'll connect to some of these other apps. So let's look at how we can connect firstly to this Moog Model D app. I've chosen this one because I think actually, although some of this looks a bit scary when you first open it up, it's actually a really quite easy one to get going with without having to buy any additional sounds. So first of all, the connection. Now, we could use a USB cable. Of course, on the Aerophone GO, we can also use the Bluetooth connection. Now, to make the connection with this app, I'm going to press the cogwheel at the top right-hand corner. Across on the left of the screen, select MIDI, and then back over to the right of the screen, Bluetooth MIDI, and you can see a familiar drop-down box there, and at the top on mine it says AE05. All I need to do is touch on that, and we are actually connected. And if I press the little button on the back, you might be able to see that the pitch bend wheel is already connected and working down there. So that's the first step to getting into all these fantastic new sounds. Now, similarly here, we're on the Thor app. And again, some of this can look pretty complicated, particularly if you go over here and press on the selector here that says knobs or routing. It all looks pretty complicated. I don't understand the most of that. But we're looking firstly just to make the Bluetooth connection again here. And again, there is a cogwheel. You see there are similarities here in the apps. And then under here where it says MIDI, at the moment it says all. Actually, it's probably okay to leave it there. But of course here you can actually see AE05. And once again, I'm already set. And this is actually now connected over Bluetooth to the Thor app. So most of the apps are going to work in the same way. You just need to find the MIDI input selection, and you should see there that it says Aerophone AE05, and select that and you'll be connected to the app. So great, so far we've done well. Now let's look at some of the sounds that we can actually use on these fantastic apps. So here I am, I'm connected with the Thor app. Now, the issue is with these apps that they've been actually set up to work with a keyboard to begin with. And you know, the Aerophone sends out a slightly different message to the keyboard messages. So the apps have to be tweaked a little bit to make them work properly with the Aerophone or any other wind synthesizer. Now on this Thor app, I've actually purchased some sounds. I'll leave you a link in the description box below. All the instructions are there how to install them into the app, and they've been specially modified to work really well straight out of the box with a wind synthesizer. So we'll get a great list of presets here that we can use straight away. They'll all work with the Aerophone. I've sort of saved some of my favorite ones. You've just heard me play some of that saw lead. Let's listen to this breaker lead. And what you can hear is that as I blow harder, the synth sound opens up and it has a nice kind of change of tone quality. It's responding to my lip pressure. It's also responding to the thumb button here if I want to change or dip the sound with my thumb. And let's just try another one. Here's a rotator one. This is actually going to turn my single notes into 4-part chords. And not only that, as I play a chord, if I reiterate the sound, it's going to change the chord. So this is just one note. Again with fantastic breath response. So this is probably the easiest way to get into a new synth app, and you don't have to do any alterations to the sounds at all. But what about if you do want to alter some sounds and actually get into a little bit more of creating your own sounds? Or you might not want to spend the extra money on buying those additional tweaks to the sounds. In the next section, I'll show you how you can do that quite easily. Now, I'm back on the Moog app here, and I know this looks quite complicated still, but there's quite an easy way of making these sounds work. Now, do you remember I said earlier that these sounds won't respond very well to an Aerophone straight out of the box? I've got this sound selected here, and I mean, you can hear the notes changing, but I can't really control the dynamic range at all. It just comes out very, very quietly, and it's not going to be very successful. So how can we make that better work? Well, there is a setting on most of the synth apps which is called frequency cutoff. Now, what this does basically, it sort of works like a big sort of sweep control that allows sound to be released, if you like, and then quietened down. And as I say, this is not a fix-all solution, but it works really pretty well on quite a lot of sounds. So I'll show you how I've done this on this app. Now, what we're looking for is this cutoff frequency button. It'll be in a different place on different synth apps, but that's the one you're looking for. Now, what we can do is we can program the app so that when it hears the controls from the Aerophone, it makes that particular dial or control move when I blow on the Aerophone. Now, the Aerophone and the wind synthesizers send out a message called CCO2. So we need to try and get this control, the frequency cutoff, to be controlled by CCO2. It's easier than it sounds. I'm touching the cogwheel and I'm going to go to the MIDI control here, and then do you see it says here map CCs? Do you remember? CCO2 is what we're after. Now all these buttons here now have a circle with them. They're sort of waiting for you to touch on one and program it to work with breath control. The one we were after was this one here, the frequency cutoff. If I touch on that, now all I need to do is blow on the aerophone, and you see it's changed right away to a number 2 control. If I close that off now, what's going to happen is when I blow, the frequency cutoff is going to move higher as I blow harder. And now I've got a very usable sound. Again, it's responding to lip pressure. I didn't have to do anything for that. And the thumb button will work straight away. And what I can do is go through any of those sounds, and each one now will respond in the same way because the frequency cutoff remains set in the memory. So now I've changed my sound. And you can hear that that's responding because of the frequency cutoff as well. Now, just a couple of extra little points here. You might need to alter the sustain level. On some of the sounds, when they've been played, they automatically start to dip down in volume. So just whiz those all the way over to full. There's one here on this row, and there's one on the bottom row on the modifiers. Just make sure they're up all the way, and then you go to the little save function here, press save, and those settings will remain for next time you open it up. Let's just hear another one, shall we? I've got one here which is a kind of sequencer one. So as I play a note, it kind of remembers each note, and I can build up a whole sequence pattern. So I can build up a whole series of patterns there. This app has even got a looper built right into it, so you can play one synthesizer sound and record that, and then on the top overdub another synth sound as well. Fantastic fun, and some of the most classic synth sounds that you can get. So that's a brief look at what we can do with some of these other apps on the iPad or your Android device. With those relatively few little tweaks, you can open up a huge library of additional sounds to use with your Aerophone Go. Thanks again for watching. Please remember to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one.